makes me think a settlement is now even further away from a possibility. I now actually, and I never really fully believed we'd go see this to court, but now that she's had to sit for the depo, I could see this really going all the way to court now, which would be in March. So
I think I'm like her in the sense that we don't indulge in the gossip. We don't listen to what people say about us. You just have to turn a blind eye to it. People are going to talk, and you can't be hurt by that. You can't listen to that. And she's really striving. These days, I live my whole life. It's easier to fall into that, like talking about someone else and when you stick up for someone, you're going out on a limb when a whole group is making fun of someone. But I've really tried to have some honor in my life.
Blake Lively has officially faced her biggest challenge yet in this legal war. A 7-hour deposition sitting across from Justin Baldoni. Yes, the two were in the same room, and according to multiple sources, it was as tense as you'd imagine. This isn't just another step in a lawsuit. This was a showdown where every word mattered. Blake, who has been accused by Baldoni's camp of dodging accountability, was forced to answer questions under oath, with no room for evasions.
Big day. For those of you unfamiliar what a deposition is, this is the chance for Justin's side to question her under oath, to really get the facts from her. And she's got to sit there and answer everything. She can't just ignore it or say no. She's got to answer questions, and she's got to tell the story. And will that story match up to her testimony later in court?
7 hours of grueling back and forth questioning by Brian Freeman's team and the knowledge that every statement could be used against her later in court made this deposition a true pressure cooker. And then there's Justin Baldoni, whose presence wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. He couldn't question her directly, but insiders say he worked closely with his lawyers during breaks to fine-tune their approach. The two reportedly locked eyes more than once, a detail that paints this encounter as more than just legal procedure. This is now bigger than a lawsuit. It's personal. And with this deposition complete, the chances of this case quietly settling seem slimmer than ever. A full trial in March? Suddenly that feels very possible.
That's what's going to be up for debate. So do I think there were fireworks? I don't like to speculate, but yes. The fact that Justin stepped up and showed up, which he's absolutely obligated to do and should do, because they're asking questions of her, and the only other person there who can really dispute or challenge is him. Now, while he can't sit there and challenge her in the moment, he can't.
Intense year. A lot of material success and a lot of emotional stress. It's very hard on me and my family. And
for those unfamiliar, a deposition isn't a casual conversation. It's a legally binding interrogation, and Blake had no choice but to answer questions under oath, even the uncomfortable ones. Think of it as a pre-trial battle where lawyers try to lock in testimony that can later be used to expose contradictions in court, and this one was high stakes. Sources suggest the lawyers came armed with everything: timelines, documents, and pointed questions meant to catch Blake off guard. What makes this even more significant is the shift it signals.
The biggest being the fact that, according to TMZ and at various other outlets, Blake Lively has finally sat down for her deposition. And I'll be honest, it surprised me because I didn't think she was gonna. But she'd continue to find more excuses. The fact that she's now sat for a deposition.
Many observers thought this lawsuit would end in a settlement, quietly resolved behind the scenes. But by sitting for this deposition, Blake is showing she's willing to fight. On the other side, Justin Baldoni's attendance is just as telling. Most plaintiffs don't bother showing up for depositions, but Justin did. Why? Likely because he wanted to hear Blake's version of events firsthand and ensure his team could challenge her narrative in real time. 7 hours in that room weren't just about answering questions. They were about testing each other's resolve. The ripple effect? Both sides are now digging in deeper. and the chance of this case becoming a public courtroom spectacle has skyrocketed.
Nothing against, like, I love a good hysterical female song, but not like hysterical in like a charged, great, empowered way. It's just like, you know what I mean? You know that sound
It's
that's
not
like
cheesy. It's not cheesy.
And anyways, women are people of multitudes. And, I think that it was important to me that it didn't just feel like someone's interpretation of like male gaze. Like it really was, this is what we like, this is what we listen to, this is what makes us feel these vibes.
Imagine this. A stark conference room, lawyers seated across from one another, court reporters typing every word, and Blake Lively under oath, facing Justin Baldoni across the table. 7 hours of questioning, broken up only by brief strategic breaks, during which Baldoni and his legal team could huddle to refine their next moves. That's what this deposition looked like. Legal experts say depositions are designed to push witnesses to their limits. Lawyers often keep their questions narrow, forcing yes or no answers, while peppering in unexpected follow-ups to trip up even the most prepared witness. Blake likely had months of preparation, but no amount of coaching can completely shield someone from a skilled litigator trying to poke holes in their story. And Brian Freeman? He's known for being aggressive when needed. It's almost certain he used the deposition to press Blake hard, aiming to capture any hesitation or inconsistency. What was said in that room won't become public yet, but it will almost certainly be a weapon in the courtroom battle ahead. For Justin, this wasn't just about hearing Blake's answers. It was about watching her body language, studying her reactions, and preparing for the next phase of what's quickly becoming a high-profile war. As if the legal battle weren't enough, the press is already shaping this into a headline-grabbing feud. People magazine quickly reported on the deposition, framing Justin Baldoni's presence as a surprise move. But here's the thing, it wasn't a surprise at all. Blake's team already knew he'd be there. In fact, she'd won a protective order requiring advance notice of who would attend. So why paint it as shocking? Simple, this is a PR war as much as it is a legal one. Both sides are carefully leaking details to craft their own narrative. Blake's camp wants to appear blindsided and embattled, while Justin's team wants to highlight his commitment to confronting this case head-on. It's a battle for public sympathy, fought through strategic headlines. And it's not just the mainstream media getting involved. Gossip blogs and social media are dissecting every leak, every comment, every redacted court filing. That's where this case gets even messier, because when legal battles spill into the public arena, controlling the story becomes just as important as winning in court. The question now is, will this media blitz help Blake or hurt her? Judging by public opinion so far, it's leaning toward the latter. If you thought this case was just about Blake and Justin, think again. Over 100 content creators, influencers, and commentators have now been subpoenaed as part of this legal slugfest. Yes, 107 people, including recognizable names like Perez Hilton and Candace Owens, have been pulled into this mess. Blake's legal team claims some of these creators may have been part of an orchestrated smear campaign against her, allegedly connected to Justin's side and his lawyer Brian Freeman. But here's the problem, there's little evidence of that, and this move has backfired badly in the court of public opinion. Dragging influencers into a lawsuit doesn't look like a fight for justice, it looks like intimidation. And people online are noticing. Perez Hilton alone has posted over 500 times about the feud, which Blake's lawyers argue points to a coordinated effort. But critics say that's just how the internet works. Gossip equals clicks, and Perez makes his living chasing them. This sweeping subpoena effort has sparked outrage, with many calling it a dangerous overreach. If the goal was to protect Blake's image, it may have done the opposite. Instead, it's painted her as a powerful celebrity, using the courts to silence her critics. Behind the scenes, the lawyers are waging a battle of their own. Blake's team has accused Brian Freeman, Justin's attorney, of orchestrating a network of influencers to smear her. But Freeman's side is firing back, calling the claim absurd and arguing that no such agreements exist. The courtroom clash over these subpoenas has been heated, with Freeman's attorneys insisting that handing over information about client relationships would violate attorney-client privilege. The judge himself seemed skeptical of Blake's argument, questioning why her team even needed a ruling if no agreements exist. This isn't just legal maneuvering, it's strategic framing. By casting Freeman as the mastermind of a so-called online takedown campaign, Blake's team is trying to muddy the waters and shift blame for the negative press surrounding her. But so far, that tactic hasn't landed. Legal analysts say the evidence for these claims is thin, and the subpoenas risk making Blake's side look desperate. Meanwhile, Freeman's camp has countered that the real smear campaign is being waged in court, with Blake's team allegedly twisting his words and attributing false quotes to him. It's a legal chess match, and every move is being scrutinized by the public. As if this case wasn't complicated enough, Blake Lively has filed an amended complaint that reintroduces PR crisis manager Jed Wallace back into the lawsuit. But here's the kicker. Almost everything in the new filing is redacted. That means no one outside the legal teams knows the full scope of her updated accusations. The move appears to be an attempt to keep the case in New York, despite Wallace's work being based in Texas. Blake's lawyers are trying to draw a stronger connection between Wallace's actions and New York jurisdiction, but critics say it feels like a stretch. Why does this matter? Because reintroducing Wallace gives Blake more targets in her legal fight, but it also opens her up to criticism that she's expanding the case in a way that's more about optics than justice. Legal experts warn that overly broad complaints can backfire, making a plaintiff look like they're grasping at straws. And the heavy redactions only add to the drama. What's behind those black lines? Nobody knows, but the mystery has fueled speculation. And once again, Blake is at the center of an online firestorm. One thing's clear, this legal strategy is anything but conventional. At this point, Blake Lively's biggest problem may not be the courtroom, it's public perception. Every legal maneuverer, every headline, every subpoena has added fuel to the narrative that she's using her star power to crush her critics. Even those sympathetic to her case are starting to question the wisdom of dragging over 100 influencers into this fight. And then there's Justin Baldoni, who, by showing up to the deposition and remaining relatively quiet in the media, is playing the role of the calm, collected plaintiff, a stark contrast to the aggressive legal tactics coming from Blake's side. In the court of public opinion, that difference matters. And as this case heads toward what could be a full-blown trial in March, the stakes are higher than ever. If Blake wins, she may clear her name. But if she loses, or even if she just continues to lose the PR battle, her reputation could take a lasting hit. For now, all eyes are on the next court filings, the next leaks, and the next strategic move. One thing's for sure, this legal war isn't just about justice anymore. It's about winning hearts, minds, and headlines.